He was a former Navy SEAL. When his former friends were fighting for money,
I've been doing this ever since the day you opened your big fucking mouth.
he decided to fight both Russian mafia and Chinese triads not for money, but for one innocent little girl.
You okay?
And he really did diabolically unimaginable to them. Welcome back to Paramount Recaps. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Father and mother, dead, which is too bad, because I would like to take them.
In the bustling city of Nanjing, China, a young girl named Mei possesses a rare gift. She's a math genius who can solve complex equations without breaking a sweat. Her memory is like a vault, storing every number she encounters without. One day, while walking home with her friends, Mei is snatched off the street by a group of men and taken to a notorious Chinese mafia boss named Han's. Criminal activities are under constant surveillance, so he needs someone like Mei to keep track of his shady dealings without leaving a paper trail. Initially, Mei resists, but when Han threatens her mother's life, she has no choice but to comply. To keep her hidden, Han entrusts her to Chong, one of his loyal gang members, who takes Mei to New York and disguises her as his daughter. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, a former cop and cage fighter named Luke is in the middle of a brutal fight. He's supposed to throw the match, but things take a turn when he accidentally knocks out his opponent, leaving him in a coma. This blunder infuriates Emil, the head of the Russian mafia, who loses a fortune because of Luke's. Luke knows that crossing a mobster like Emil means his family is in grave danger. He rushes home, only to find that he's too late. Emil's son, Vasily, has already murdered his pregnant wife. Crushed by his loss, Luke doesn't even fight back. The thugs warn him that they'll kill anyone he talks to, leaving him utterly isolated. With nowhere to turn, Luke heads back to New York, where he ends up living on the streets, completely broken and homeless. A year goes by, and Mei is still working for the gang. Chong takes her out on regular rounds through Chinatown, where she memorizes the profits and losses of various businesses. These shop owners are forced to pay a portion of their earnings to the gang, making Mei an invaluable asset. Over time, she becomes well-versed in the ruthless world of gang business. Luke, on the other hand, is barely surviving in a filthy homeless shelter. One night, he meets a man with no shoes and badly affected. Feeling sorry for him, Luke gives him his shoes, only to wake up the next morning and find the man dead, his throat slit and the shoes stolen. Life on the streets has been nothing short of a nightmare for Luke. Back in Chinatown, a woman who works with Chong approaches Mei late at night with devastating news. Her mother has passed away in China after a long illness. The next day, Han arrives in New York for the first time since Mei was brought over. He gives her a piece of paper with a string of numbers, instructing her to memorize them. Mei commits the numbers to memory in a matter of seconds, knowing they must be crucial because Han immediately burns the paper. Chong then takes her to a new location, where she is told she'll have to memorize another set of numbers upon arrival. But before they can reach their destination, they are ambushed by the Russian mafia, led by Emil, the very man responsible for Luke's wife's death. The Russians want May because of the valuable numbers stored in her memory. A violent shootout ensues, and the Chinese gangsters are overpowered. The Russians kidnap May and take her away. Elsewhere, Luke's day goes from bad to worse when a stranger steals his breakfast money. As he's trying to scrounge up something to eat, he bumps into an old colleague from his days on the police force. Recognizing Luke, the cop and his buddies drag him to an abandoned building. It turns out these cops are still angry at Luke for exposing their corrupt ties to local gangsters years ago. They beat him up and mock him, but Luke doesn't fight back. At the end of their brutal session, one of the cops hands Luke a gun, urging him to take his own life. Luke refuses and walks away, battered but not broken. Meanwhile, May is taken to Emil, who demands that she recite the numbers she's memorized. It's then that May realizes the woman who informed her of her mother's death had been working with Emil all along. The woman presses May to give up the code, but May predicts that the woman will be killed once she's no longer useful. Sure enough, the Russians shoot her on the spot. May knows she'll meet the same fate if she reveals the numbers, so she keeps quiet. Just then, Captain Wolf, a corrupt cop who used to work with Luke, shows up at the Russian hideout. He's not there to enforce the law, but to carry out orders from the Chinese mafia boss, Han. Emil offers Captain Wolf a hefty bribe to turn a blind eye, and the crooked cop takes the deal, leaving the Russians to their business. Amidst the chaos, May manages to slip away unnoticed. As both the Russian and Chinese gangs scramble to find her, May ends up at a subway station where Luke is contemplating suicide. He's just moments away from jumping onto the tracks when he locks eyes with May, a terrified little girl, and something in him shifts. He also spots the Russian thugs who murdered his wife chasing after her. May boards the subway to escape, but the gangsters are hot on her heels. Sensing that she's in danger, Luke decides to intervene. He clings to the side of the moving subway car, taking out the Russians one by one. One of them recognizes Luke from their previous encounter and is shocked to see him fighting back so fiercely. After dispatching the last of the thugs, Luke finally meets May, but she mistakes him for another bad guy, flees as soon as the subway stops. Determined to find her, Luke overhears a police radio announcing a red alert. He quickly realizes that the cops, who are just as corrupt as the gangsters, are also after May and will hand her over to the mafia if they catch her. A few minutes later, the same cops who had beaten Luke earlier spot May and try to capture her. Luke shows up just in time, taking down the cops effortlessly, proving that his silence was more about choice than weakness. May, still skeptical of Luke, hesitates but eventually jumps into a car with him as the Russian mafia closes in. What follows is a wild car chase through the streets of Manhattan, with Luke expertly outmaneuvering the Russians and ultimately taking them out. After the chaos, Luke nabs their wallets and heads to a luxury hotel with May. Elsewhere, Captain Wolf gets wind of the situation and learns that May was taken by Luke, not the Mafia. He's stunned because Luke has kept his nose clean since leaving the force. At the hotel, May begins to trust Luke and reveals the number she's memorized. Luke quickly deduces that the numbers are a safe combination. May mentions that she was supposed to memorize a second number before the Russians ambushed them, suggesting there are two safes filled with something valuable, likely linked to the Chinese Mafia. Meanwhile, Chong tracks May's location through her phone and storms the hotel with his men. Panic ensues as the shootout begins, causing chaos as people scramble to escape. In the midst of the fight, Luke and May are separated. Chong captures May while Luke barely escapes, determined to rescue her no matter what. To do so, Luke decides to use the phone he swiped earlier to call Vasily, Emil's son, the same guy who murdered his wife. Posing as a gang member, Luke claims he has the coveted numbers everyone's after. Vasily, believing him, tells Luke to meet him at a casino to hand over the numbers. In a separate development, the city's mayor calls Captain Wolf to discuss the recent surge in violence. It turns out the mayor and his partner, Alex, are as corrupt as the rest. The mayor reveals that Luke wasn't just an ordinary cop. He was actually a CIA agent embedded in the police force after September 11th. During his time on the force, Luke and Alex took out several crime bosses to bring order to the city. However, Luke left after blowing the whistle on Captain Wolf's corrupt dealings, while Alex stuck around, eventually cozying up to the mayor to climb the ranks. Captain Wolf now realizes that Luke, the man he thought was a washed-up loser, is actually his most formidable enemy. As this unfolds, Luke's former partner Alex, now the mayor's corrupt lover, gets nervous when he learns that Luke and May are together. It's clear he knows something about the safes and the combinations. Meanwhile, May's returned to Han, who grills her about whether she shared the combination with anyone. May lies, insisting she pretended not to understand English. Chong then calls Alex, informing him that they've got the girl and can proceed with their meeting. It becomes clear that the Chinese Mafia's business partners are none other than the mayor and Alex, who are involved in a shady trade involving the contents of their respective safes. Luke arrives at the casino, where he ambushes Vasily's crew and takes him hostage, planning to use him as leverage against Emil. He calls Emil, demanding to know what's inside the safe in exchange for Vasily's life. Emil spills the beans. The Chinese gangster's safe contains $30 million, while the mayor's safe holds something of equal value. The plan was to use May to facilitate the trade, but the Russians disrupted. Now that the Chinese have May, they're ready to move forward with the deal. Chong is on his way to meet Alex to exchange the codes. To save May, Luke needs to get his hands on the $30 million before the trade goes down. But he knows he can't do it alone. The safe is buried deep in Chinatown, guarded by the most dangerous members of the Chinese Mafia. So, Luke turns to his former cop buddies for help. They agree, but only because of the money. The group storms the hideout, resulting in a brutal shootout that leaves several gangsters and cops dead. When they finally reach the safe, Luke double-crosses the cops, killing them all except for Captain Wolf, whom he takes hostage along with Vasily. Luke grabs the money from the safe and heads to the mayor's office. On the way, Luke calls Alex, demanding to know what's in the second safe. With Luke holding all the money, Alex has no choice but to comply. He reveals that the second safe belongs to the mayor and contains a disc with incriminating data on every crime syndicate. And the mayor had planned to sell the disc to the Chinese, pocket the $30 million, and let the gangs fight it out. With the money already stolen, Alex tries to get back to Luke, but is ordered to bring May along since she's crucial to plan. Alex complies, killing Chong and his men before driving to meet Luke with May in tow. In the next scene, Luke storms into the mayor's office, demanding the contents of the second safe. Although the mayor hesitates, he eventually hands over the disc containing the syndicate data. Luke knocks him out and heads off to meet Alex as promised. Now in possession of both the money and the information, Luke holds all the cards. But Alex has one last trick up his sleeve, May. When they meet to exchange May for the money, Luke proposes they settle things with a fight instead. Alex, confident, gears up for a brawl, but is caught off guard when May shoots him in the leg. Seizing the moment, Luke easily finishes him off. With Alex out of the picture, Luke and May are finally free. They have the money, the disc, and their lives back. To ensure May's safety, Luke lets Captain Wolf go with $50,000 as a payoff, and he releases Vasily to avoid retaliation from the Russians. As for Han, the Chinese mafia leader, Luke sends him the remaining money to keep him from pursuing May further. Finally, Luke hides copies of the disc in various locations around the city as insurance. So if anyone comes after them, they have leverage. In the closing scene, Luke and May hit the road, heading to Seattle to start fresh.